Grand Slam is like, I think your own approval, I would say. And I never wanted to look at it that way, and because it's not a nice way to treat yourself, I feel, but it's also something that still keeps the fire going in me. I would say that is probably the last piece of the puzzle, really.
Hi Grigor, how are you?
Excellent.
I'm excited for this.
Me more.
Second time we're doing it.
Yes.
You were one of my first.
Yes.
You've been part of the top players for a very long time, but I feel like people don't know your story too well. Do you mind going through your childhood with me?
I think I can. I'll try my best.
Do you remember how you started tennis?
I think I was 3 years old. I was a very wild kid that I remember. And I remember my mom brought me to the tennis court. And she gave me a racket. She's like, oh, here, take a racket, take this ball, while my dad was giving lessons, I remember. And we had this like I'm never gonna forget, this big green wall. And I don't know, I just took the racket and I don't know, started hitting against the wall, and I could never beat the wall.
Still can't to this day.
And still can't to this day. So yeah, I think this is one of my like first memories, like growing up, and of course it all comes down to, I think, to my parents on that end.
And then your dad started coaching you?
Then, yeah, little by little, at the beginning, like none of us knew that this is what I'm gonna do or anything. I just had such a huge interest in the sport, and I just didn't have interest in anything else. That was also something very interesting, especially when I first started playing. I was just enjoying it, and I never said, okay, this is what I want to do or anything like that. But I think little by little, my dad saw that I actually have like a bit of a talent for the sport itself. And then eventually I started coming more to the courts and spending more time at the courts. And eventually, actually, once they forgot me on the wall, my parents, they just left the courts, and I was just kept on hitting throughout the whole day. And then they came home and like, where's Grigor? And they forgot me on the wall.
Do you remember at which moment you guys were talking about becoming a professional player?
Yes. I played a tournament in France, in Grigor, if I remember correct. I was 11 years old, and I won the tournament. I came back home, and I just sat and I stared at the trophy. I don't know, and it said single champion, and something inside was like, man, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And I was waiting for my parents to come home. I think they were working at the time. And I looked at my father, I was like, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do. And he just looked at me and he was like, okay. You know, it was like not even a conversation or anything like that, but that's my first like fond memory of me saying, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life.
And how hard has it been for you to climb the ladder of tennis, which requires a lot of money, coming from a modest family?
I really appreciate the fact that we had a very, very close family. I think, you know, with my grandparents were around, and you know, some of them were even giving their pension to get me a ticket to get to a tournament, to get on a flight. So that was actually one of the first times I got on a plane, and it was very tough. I think we had to find many ways, and till nowadays I still don't know certain things for certain, but I know that my dad was you know, working a lot. My mom was on the same level. Comes from my background is pretty tough. I never felt the need to have a lot of it. It was just, all I needed was just enough to get me through. And ultimately the biggest thing that was getting me through is like that belief, and believe in myself, and also the love I had for my family. I think really this propelled me and helped me to really like realize that in order to have much, you don't need that much. So basically whatever I had at hand, I was maximizing it, making the most out of it, and eventually I started pushing for more. And of course I was demanding more from myself later on.
And then later you decided to go to some academies in Spain, at Sanchez Cazal, and then Moratoglu in Paris. Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to get coached by someone else, by your dad, at such a young age?
Well, I give credit to my dad first because he realized that at certain point in sort of in my career that he couldn't bring more to the table. He couldn't teach me more. He couldn't maybe also travel as much as he would love to. So there were a lot of factors. For me, that was the biggest thing where we both actually realized that, okay, maybe that was time for us to try something else, to try something new, and to add up more, not only to me, but to my career. And eventually I had to start working a little bit more on the fitness, and I needed more and a stronger financial help as well, which at the time still couldn't, we weren't able to have. So of course all these academies that I went through, they help in so many different ways that I'm forever grateful on every department of that. But of course there was a big chunk of it that I was running a big risk, and I always said that I was really throughout, I would say, my early age, sort of in academy life and everything, I was really running on the edge on both sides. So but I feel like very, very blessed on that, and lucky to be able to get out of it, meaning in a good way, that I was able to save a lot of myself.
So your dad is the one who taught you technique,
Mm-hmm.
and you've told me before that the similarity with Roger Federer's technique was a coincidence.
Yeah.
When and how did you realize that there was a similarity?
One of the first shots my dad taught me actually was slice. So I mean, I don't know. Roger, I'm not sure Roger was playing it. I mean, he was playing at the time, but he was not that well known at the time. But my dad was very vocal on certain shots of my game. That's why I still remember one of the first shots he taught me was the slice. And then eventually, for example, I had to change my serve. I think I was 16 or 17 years old. I was this like skinny kid, and I wasn't able to like put my 2 feet together on the court. And every time I was serving, I used to put my foot next to the other one. I had to do like basically a step to serve. But then I realized with time that it was not sustainable enough for me. I was losing balance and motion and everything. So ultimately I had to change my serve with one position. And that position, it turned out to be like similar to that guy. And I still remember even the person that helped me out with it. I think he was a big fan of Roger. Oh. So that's how I think the serve came around. I didn't know at the time clearly, but he said, hey, why don't you try this serve this way? So I did try, and I kept on serving this way, and clearly it felt better with the years, and as the time go by, I felt better. And I think this is how all the similarities came across. And then of course the outfits, the rackets and everything, it happened to be again on the same end. So in the end I just had to accept it, I guess.
And in what way did that nickname, I think that you don't really like, Baby Roger, could it help you in a way and not help you in some other ways?
You know what, I appreciated so much at the beginning. I felt appreciation at the beginning, but then with time I was like, come on, he's getting old. And the reason for that is, yes, we have some sort of similarities, but we're totally different and we play so different. So, I appreciate the fact of it, but I never, there were times that I started resenting the people that were saying it, because I didn't care anymore about this fact, and I thought I proved myself over the years to be a completely different player than he is. Of course, we're not even talking about achievements, but just as a player itself. So that's why I was like very happy that this nickname died.
In what way are you guys very different?
I think first, decision making. At times, for example, he's way more aggressive than me, and on certain moments I use different shots than him. So for me, that already is a big difference. And I think also as characters, I think we're I think kind of polar opposite. But all in all, he's an amazing role model.
Polar opposite in what way?
Polar opposite in like, I don't know, like he used to be a rebel from what I heard, like when he was like on a younger age. But for me, I think I've kept that that for me still. That's why I said he's a very good role model, and for sure certain steps I always try to look up to him. As I said, he's been the nowadays role model in our sport itself, and I think you can learn a lot. But you know, we're only one of a kind on earth. So
Did he ever give you any advice?
quite a few, but I think one of the best messages I've ever received from him was after I played that match against Rafa in Australia.
What did he say? I won't tell.
I'm sure. I still keep the message though. I can.
Do you read it sometimes?
Yeah.
And so who are you watching and who did you look up to when you were a kid?
We didn't have much tennis to watch growing up, and there was only some big tournaments that they were playing on TV, and I could only watch them. So it was honestly the beginning. All I was watching was Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi. Honestly, that was one of the fewest tournaments was Wimbledon they were playing. So ultimately, for me, that was one of the only times. And then with time, we start getting a lot of like DVDs and from all the players all around the world. And I think at 16 or 17 years old, I got invited to play. They had an invitational junior tournament at Queen's. In the meantime, you have to warm up all the ATP players. So I got the chance to like really like see like Andy Roddick or in sort of the early years, and Safin and all these guys, sort of the ones, Rafa as well, like on the early years. So it was like super easy for me to kind of, okay, now it's easy for me to see what they do, you know, how they eat, how they prepare for matches. And I think that really helped me, and I think motivated me a lot more. That was important to me, and I think the reason is because also where I come from, we didn't have many examples. We didn't have like guys that I can go in the, you know, 2 towns on the other side, be like, okay, this guy's hitting this way or that guy is playing that way. I never had like a sort of one particular role model even for my own country to be like, okay, I want to follow his footsteps and get a little bit of a help. Therefore, when I went there, I was like, okay, this is great now. Now I can look. And I remember I had to take the subway like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm never gonna forget. I stayed on the Northern Line. I had to like change 3 trains to get to the courts and warm up somebody at like 9:15, for example. And in those moments, even now that I talk about it, I totally forgot about that. Even now, like I feel the fire of that helped me. That sparkled me even more to progress, to be even more hungry and more excited for the sport itself. And then everything obviously came with it, but I started enjoying every aspect of tennis, you know, the traveling, the hotels, and as you know, it can get rough.
Do you remember the first sport you tried?
My mom is a former volleyball player, so volleyball, like I love playing football. I love sports, so I think since I was a kid, sports were my only like escape, to be honest. And I've done nearly everything that you could possibly exist, and I enjoy it a lot.
First match?
I'm not sure if that was the first or second, but I remember I was in my hometown. We had a tournament, and I got killed. I think it was 9-0 or 9-1, or like it was. Yeah, I got killed. I cried.
So that's the first time you cried?
First time I probably cried after a match.
First slam you played?
The first slam I played was Wimbledon, actually, because I won the juniors, and they give you a wild card for main draw. So yeah, I would say Wimbledon.
First idol?
First idol.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, probably. I was just about to say some actor, most likely.
For the good reasons.
Yeah. I want him to play me in a movie. I want him to play me in a movie, yeah.
First racket you broke?
It was by accident, and I hit, I think, one pole next to the court, and the racket broke. So I was hiding it for a week from my dad, and then I showed it to him, and then he's like, "Oh, you broke it." I'm like, "It was an accident." He's like, "No." So he never believed me when I broke a racket.
Yeah, you've been as high as number 3 in the world, and if it's fair to say that you've had quite some ups and downs during your career.
It's fair to say.
It was like a hidden question. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah.
Is there one favorite Grigor that you have in mind where everything was aligned and you like to visualize as your best self?
First was, I think, when I played Andy Murray at Wimbledon, the quarterfinal match. Oh, that was a straightforward match. And the one I lost that still hurts, is the one in Australia against Rafa. That was a match that I think I'll never forget, because it was really at the point where I actually said to myself, there's no way I can lose this match almost. And yet I lost the match, and it was just it was just a moment that I could never forget, because everything was one of those perfect nights, as I like to call it. Like, it was a match at 7:30, full house, not wind, there was no wind, like perfect temperature, like all tuned up, 5 sets, Australia, like it's just, everything was just like, you know, like ta-da, like you come out there, and I mean, we knew also, it felt like we both, because our lockers were nearly next to each other, we both knew that this is going to be a big match. Like I felt that, and we spoke even in the locker room after. It's like, you know, you felt this? I'm like, yeah, I know, I did.
Right after the match?
Yeah, right after the match. It was not easy for me. I mean, I was like, listen, I don't want to talk to you right now. But it's like, no, I know, but listen, Grigor. I was like, Anyway, it was a good.
He's the one who wanted to talk about it?
Yeah, believe it or not. And then, anyway, it was just a moment of reflection after. I think it took me about 2.5, 3 days to even realize what kind of match that was, of what importance the match was, and to even appreciate the match, because I felt I didn't have time to do it. I felt I couldn't realize what happened. And then it took me quite a bit of time, but after, when I had to like dissolve everything, and I realized what I did and how I did it. So that was I'd say that was a special moment too, and I'll remember it.
So what to you is the difference between that Grigor on that court that night and the one when things don't go so well?
Oh, so many things. So many
Too
things.
many things.
Too many things. No, too many things. I mean, it's hard enough to get to the court to play a match. I think we underestimate the power of our head a little bit more than usual. I think in those particular moments when I'm not feeling good on the court, it's just, I just want to hide, you know. I just want to like dig a hole in the court and disappear. And I always say tennis is one of the loneliest places that you can be at times. And it's true. You come out on the court, you sit alone, you discuss yourself alone for a minute or minute and a half, whatever you have on the side. You have to make a decision within the split of a second, like win or lose, is that close. Practice depends on you, how much effort you put in. So like basically you cannot really blame anybody else. Well, you can, but you can never look yourself in the mirror, lie to yourself, but like, oh, it was his fault for losing. Like, no, it's you. And I think the one thing I'm really good at, I feel, is that always looking at the mistake in me first. I mean, I always judge myself first. I mean, I know judge is a very strong word, but I want to say observe myself. But it's just a fine line. It's all up to you. I mean, it's a fine line between winning and losing. So if you don't put yourself in that position, you would never know. You would never know. You just have to take time to get to know yourself, not only on the court, but off the court. And I believe it took me a bit more time, I mean, it still does, so to speak, time to really register certain things and appreciate them and understand them. I actually first understand them and then to appreciate them, to know where that rotten tomato might be, because you might practice amazing for 2-3 months, all of a sudden you come to a tournament and you lose 2-2. I mean, you've had that, I'm sure, right?
Of course, everyone has.
So then what is your first thought? Same thing, like you practice, you come, you're strong, you feel you can go through a wall and everything. You come on the court and you feel like a fish out of the water. That's not a fun feeling. But there were times that I didn't.
Sometimes it's the opposite too.
I was just about to say, sometimes I come at a tournament and I've practiced less, haven't really followed too much of my, whether it's like my diet or like sleep or so on. But then here I'm so dialed in that, I mean, the ball cannot go through me, and yet I'm playing better. So you see, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, you have to find a way to be dialed in all the time, but it's
a constant work.
Was that the pinnacle of your career when you won the Nitto ATP Finals in 2017?
Now that I look back, yeah, it can be. I got in, I think I played the last tournament and I think I won a match and they said, oh, you're in, like I was the 7th guy or something. And I had zero expectations going there, but absolutely zero. I was like so tired in the end of the year, but it was always a goal of mine to get to that tournament. And then once the tournament started, I mean, I was a whole different player. I didn't lose a match in all the in the group, and I didn't lose a match at all. It ended up like being one of my absolute best tournaments. Like, it was nearly flawless throughout the whole time, and this, I could say, was probably one of the most, like, not only consistent weeks, but like, I think emotionally stable, and like everything was just flowing. Everything was flowing with everybody was around, like my family, my team, everyone knew, almost felt like everybody knew their role, and I was doing only one role. I was going there to play tennis. That's all I was taking care of, and everybody else was like kind of working things around, doing everything. I had the necessary things, and until that last point, I just didn't know what happened. Honestly, I didn't know. It was for sure a goal of mine to get to that tournament, but it was never to like win it. Of course, I start believing once the tournament started, but after I was done, I realized what I have done, and it's still nice when I think about it.
Is that your best memory?
One of.
You played Kyle Edmund in the quarters of Australian Open in 2018. A lot of commentators and people were saying that this loss was the turning point of your career. How do you remember that match?
It was. I remember the match very clearly, and I mean, I have to also give credit to him. I played him the week before. I remember in Brisbane, I won that match, but it was just. I think it was just hard for me to back up where I was at. I think also I was dealing with some, personal matters outside of it, and I know how it looks when you're on the court and you're getting judged by everything, all the commentators and the people and so on. But one thing I hate the most is that you just don't know the battle on the other side of the person, and it's so easy to get into someone and say that was a turning point, or that was a negative part of it. And this part I never liked. I mean, it's not only in our sport, in so many other sports. So for me, that was not a turning point for anything. It was just a match that I lost, and there were things that I clearly had to deal with, and I was dealing with. So there's no excuse, no substance for it, but it happens. But then there's so many other tournaments that I backed it up and I play well and all that, and it comes like that, especially at slams. You might have the most unexpected results sometimes, or you can just go through it in a winning manner. And it's a very fine line.
You had a very bounce back at US Open 2019 when you were down to 79 in the world, and you beat Roger, who was number 3 in the world and just played finals at Wimbledon. How did you build up that match?
Oh my God, if anyone's seen me before that, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
Like we just talked about, sometimes it's the opposite. You feel really bad.
Yes, but the truth of the but the truth of the fact was, like, I was in a very, I think, low moment, not only in my career, I would say in general in my life. I think I just wasn't able to do any of it. I was through with it. I was tired. I'm not gonna lie, and it could have easily been burned out, but burned out comes from over practicing, over motivating, and all of everything, But I think the person that deserves a lot of credit is Andre Agassi, for sure. He's the person that, like, provoked. He provoked me as it has nothing to do with tennis. He provoked me as more of outside of the sport. And he provoked me as a human, in a nice way. I'm saying provoke because it's different, but he really provoked me with a few sentences which I will not share, but they made me think so much that it had nothing to do with the sport itself. He helped me look, of course, helped me as a person, but he made me look a bit more in depth, like my my core values, like, and what I believed in, and when you put things in perspective that way, sometimes you see more, right? But sometimes you need to be a little, I think, poked. Little by little, after that, every day I was waking up, I was just treating myself normal. I didn't care about so much if I'm gonna go back to 100, 200, whatever, like I just dropped all the importance of
What
my
matters to you in
sport. Yeah, what
life?
matter? Yeah, like of my sport itself, and shifted more towards myself, towards life itself. And I think this is where I started, I think, winning a lot more. I started winning a lot more in my head with myself, and then eventually, I came to this U.S. Open, and I was like, okay, I'm back in business. Like I'm excited to be here. I mean, I've done the work again because I was doing the work. It's not like I stopped playing or working or anything like that. But then I was just met on a mission, and like with each match, like I felt like the build-up was coming back again, and this is when I started feeling the zone again. I started like feeling that the flow was coming back to me. I was being more acceptable on the court. I was staying in the point more, like small details like this that make such a huge difference. And then I was just like taking away all the work away from, from all my like opponents. And then I felt like, okay, now I have to play Roger. I mean, it can't be that bad, like, coming and never beaten him at the big event. So I said, okay, best of 5. I like my chances again in New York and the quarterfinal match, and I just believed. And again, the belief proved to be, I think, one of the best medicine out there when you play. And with each set that I was playing, my belief was growing, whether I was losing or winning the set. And I think I didn't even know when the match finished, to be honest. I think I lost track in the 5th set, to be honest. I didn't even know the score.
So he helped you grow up as a person, and then that helps with tennis.
And then that helps. It helped me personally. I don't know if it's gonna work for everybody, so please don't take this as the best advice from me. But I'm just saying from my own experience, that was, I would say, one of the people that I would credit for that. Of course, again, my family, like, my agents and everybody was behind me in all those moments. But it always takes that, one sentence to turn things around. And just like in tennis, just like in life, it takes one. So
when you beat Medvedev at the end of 2021 at Indian Wells, he said that you were back at your top level. Is that how you felt?
I want to say that, but I still need to back it up with more matches. It was a while that I was able to put tough matches back to back. All of a sudden, my body felt like good, and it's been a while since I felt my body really good on the court, and I've been able to practice more, to be a bit more like rigorous with myself, more strict with the little details that I think that would help me. And I think that was my strength towards that half of the year, because that match, I mean, I was down a set in 2 breaks, and it was I was like, oh, this is not going well. This is not going well. But yet I was able to really dig deep, and in that moment to really find the calmness that it really required for me to sort of start thinking clear again. But again, that comes down to the mental aspect of it. I was ready for that. I was not only physically prepared, but I was ready mentally, and I think that would help me. But I don't want to say that I'm back yet at that level. I just want to say that I'm feeling better, I'm playing better, I'm more sustainable and more constant. And if you put all those things together, I mean, who knows, maybe in 2-3 months I'll play even better, and then, I mean, my goal has not changed, is to get back to the top. So if I'm able to rack all these months again and do it, yeah, I'll be back there.
Talking about goals, what has always been the ultimate goal for you?
It changed over the years. But now it's the Grand Slam, of course. Now it's purely that. I think before was really to get to the top and to win certain tournaments and all that. But you sort of go through the ladder very differently. And I think once you've been so close to really the ultimate, goal, it's always that is going to hunt you afterwards. And for me, I would say that is probably the last piece of the puzzle, really. I mean, of course I care about every tournament I play, and I would not play just to play. But Grand Slam is like, I think, your own approval, I would say. And I never wanted to look at it that way, and because it's not a nice way to treat yourself, I feel, but it's also something that still keeps the fire going in me.
So do you think at 30 years old, the best is yet to come?
Personally, I don't feel like I'm in the end, because I know if my body is my biggest asset, and I know if it keeps healthy and I don't have any major injuries, or I'm still able to, move around the court and do the certain things that I know I'm really good at, I don't see the problem at anything, or why not? Why not at, who knows, next year, or the year after, or who knows? If I'm able to keep on doing this and backing it up with consistency and a healthy mentality, I want to say yes, the best is yet to come. So yeah, I'll take it. During
this interview at Indian Wells, after your quarter-final match, you said that you find it tough to stay emotionally balanced. What are the challenges that you faced in the past, or you can face sometimes still?
Next question.
Nope.
Okay, you got me. Okay. I think sometimes I was giving too much importance to, and I'm giving, not I was, because I still do it, I know it, and intentionally I do it, but you give the importance of things that I think first they can wait. They can wait.
Do you want to say that what happens outside of your tennis in your life had too much of an impact on your tennis?
To a certain degree, yeah. Because I know it shouldn't be the case, because I know a lot of, you always need to make the difference between, private, personal, and tennis and all that. But for me, it has always gone, part of it has always gone with me on the court. And I'm not shy talking about it as well, because it's been seen over the years, and I've had matches that I was, rubbish on the court. I was tired, or moody, or I don't know, say anything else, I'll take it, So I was just not feeling good. I didn't want it to be there. It's just how it goes. But what's the biggest thing? I kept on coming back to it, that I never stopped. I kept on going through that, and I think that's one of my biggest quality, that I never, despite whatever was happening, on or off the court, I kept on going.
And do you think the guys from the big three have that ability to separate?
Oh yeah, from what I've seen, oh yeah, I'm saying it, but also it's a completely different generation. I think we the misconception of that really comes through from a different level, because all these guys have, when they were at the top, they were also so young. So it was almost engraved on them how to do certain things inside of them. They knew their path.
What would you like people to remember you?
I was walking 2 days ago, and I was passing through a little coffee shop on the corner. I was like, oh my God, this is this player. This is amazing. He's an amazing player. And I was thinking to myself, do I want to be remembered as an amazing player? My first chat, I was like, do I want to really be remembered that way? But I don't know. I think I'm still working on that legacy, so to speak, of mine, because I feel like I'm not in the end of my career. So maybe that's why I don't think so much how I want to be remembered.
You're still trying to build yourself.
I'm still trying to build myself up. So I'm not there yet to answer proper on it. But I don't know, anything would do. But I certainly don't want to be that way only. So hopefully when the time is right, I'm gonna feel exactly what is it that I want to get out of it. Even though I know what I want to get out of it, but I want to make sure that I achieve it.
But you don't want people to just remember shots. You want them to remember more than that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Grigor.
Pleasure.